What's happening, everyone? It's been a while. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of reviewing a show or a movie, we're going to be talking about a character and critiquing them. That character being Sam Wilson's iteration in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You see, the reason I've decided to do this is because soon enough we're going to be able to see Captain America Brave New World, the fourth installment in the Captain America franchise, and the first installment where Sam Wilson is the main character, Captain America. And I believe that this movie is going to be Sam's last chance. Now, what the hell do I mean by that? Well, I believe that the MCU hasn't really done a great job at selling the general audience on Sam Wilson being the next Captain America, let alone developing his character throughout the course of the MCU to him earning the shield to be this hero. And if you don't believe me, just think back to when Captain America 4 was originally announced. When this movie first came out, not many people were excited for it. A lot of people believed the MCU had overextended itself, that it should have ended with Endgame, and now they're just milking the cash cow, and no one was really looking forward to this movie. And then there were some people who were just like, if you're going to make another Captain America movie, I'd rather you make it another Steve Rogers movie and tell us the story of how he returned all 6 Infinity Stones and Mjolnir before he got back together with Peggy, because they wanted to see what happened there. I'm actually curious to see that myself, and if they do end up doing it in the future, I feel like that would be a pretty entertaining movie. But that's neither here nor there. My point is, Sam Wilson's fourth Cap movie was not what people were looking forward to. They weren't excited to see him on the big screen as Captain America, and that's a big problem. Because what happens when you make Captain America's 5, 6, and 7, and people look into it and they're just like,
Nah, I don't really feel like it.
That's going to be a huge problem, and that shouldn't be how Captain America of all characters should feel. He should still be one of the main frontliners of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it's a huge disappointment that people aren't excited for him. But how did we end up in this position? How did Sam Wilson's character end up not feeling like a proper successor to Steve Rogers? Well, that all dates back to the fact that Endgame was supposed to be the ending of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know why I keep saying its name in full, like I keep using its full government. I'm just going to call it MCU now for the rest of this video. I don't know what the hell I was on there. But anyway, Endgame was originally supposed to be the finale of the MCU. And when Sam got Steve's shield and the torch was passed, him becoming the new Captain America in that movie, that was just supposed to be a nod to the comics. It was supposed to be a nice way of like, Steve got his happy ending, and the world is still going to have a Captain America, that being Sam. Because in the comics, for those of you who are unaware, Sam Wilson does become Captain America, shield and all, with the wings as well. So that's what that ending was in Endgame. However, because Endgame isn't the end of the MCU, and it's extended further, that's now raised the question, why was Sam chosen to be Captain America? Why was Sam chosen over someone like Bucky? Or why was Sam chosen instead of just Cap retiring the shield when he went back in time? What made Sam so special that he deserved to be Steve's successor? And they don't really do anything to properly and satisfyingly sell this to the audience. At least not up until The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, let's start back from when Sam was first introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. God damn it, I did it again. I don't know why I keep doing this. Good lord. Anyway, let's go back to when Sam was introduced in Captain America Winter Soldier and go through all of his appearances leading up to Endgame when he got the shield. We get introduced to good old Sam here at the beginning of Winter Soldier. Steve and Sam are both on a run at the same time, and this leads into one of their relationship's most noteworthy scenes, On Your Left.
Don't say it! Don't you say it!
On your left.
Come on!
After the two of them finish up their run, they have a conversation with each other that results in them becoming solid friends pretty quickly. We then don't meet Sam until a little bit later on in the movie where Steve visits him at his job, and we see that Sam is a VA, a Veterans Anonymous representative who helps out vets who have returned from war deal with their trauma. Then, after this scene, we don't see Sam again until a bit later in the movie where Steve and Natasha show up at his front door asking for refuge because they're trying to hide from Hydra who have taken over S.H.I.E.L.D. Sam agrees to help them take down Hydra, and he says that he is the Falcon, a soldier who was trained to use a specialized wingsuit that allows him to fly through the sky and go on covert ops missions. The three of them combined work to take down Hydra that's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as to stop Bucky, the Winter Soldier, and this ends the movie with Sam agreeing to help Steve find out where Bucky has run off to after the end of the film. This then brings us to Age of Ultron, where Sam is in 2 scenes in the entire movie. He's in one scene at the beginning where he is there only to say why he's not going to be in the rest of the movie.
Very happy chasing cold leads on our missing persons case. Avenging is your world. Your world is crazy.
Then Sam is ironically enough in the final scene of the movie where he is joining the Avengers. Nevertheless, that's all he does in Age of Ultron. Then we get Ant-Man where, once again, he's only in 2 scenes in the entire movie. Sam gets his ass kicked in the middle of the movie by Scott Lang, and then at the end of the film, Sam shows up in the post-credit scene with him and Steve finally finding Bucky, which leads directly into Captain America: Civil War, where Sam and Steve refuse to sign the Sokovia Accords.
What did he say?
Anyway, they refuse to sign the Accords, and this puts them at odds with the Avengers, on top of the fact that Bucky is framed for blowing up the UN and killing King T'Chaka, T'Challa's father, who was the king of Wakanda. This results in them finding Bucky, trying to bring him to refuge and figure out what's going on and why everything has been happening this way, and this results in a big fight with the Avengers. This results in Sam getting his ass kicked by Spider-Man, and then getting his ass kicked by Iron Man, and then he ends up being thrown in the prison known as the Raft. The next thing we see of Sam is that he tells Tony where Steve and Bucky had run off to, and then the next time we see him is at the very end of the movie when Steve saves him from being locked up. This brings us into his last two appearances, that being in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. In Infinity War, Sam shows up early on in the movie to save Vision and Wanda alongside Steve and Natasha. This then fast forwards a bit to the end of the movie with the Battle of Wakanda, where Sam and Rhodey team up to take down some Chitauri, and then at the very end of the movie, Sam gets dusted by Thanos after the snap. Then Sam isn't in the majority of Avengers Endgame because, well, he's one of the people that got dusted in the previous movie, or blipped as the MCU likes to say. By the end of the movie, he comes back. They have the moment that's supposed to be very heartfelt where Sam tells Steve on your left and he flies through the portal with all of the other Avengers of the massive army of superheroes that they amassed to fight Thanos and his army. Sam then goes to Iron Man's funeral, and then he shows up at the very end of the movie to be given the shield from Steve to become the next Captain America. Now, if you notice, throughout the entirety of everything I said, you didn't notice a character arc. And that's because Sam Wilson is a pretty much static character throughout the entirety of his tenure in the series. The most levity we really see from Sam is when he tells jokes like this moment here in Civil War, where we get a little bit of a glimpse of how his dynamic with Bucky is going to be in The Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Can you move your seat up? No.
Outside of that, that's really it. We don't see much of Sam's character develop. He stays basically the same throughout all of these movies, which wasn't a problem when this was going to be the end of the MCU, but since it's continued afterwards, a static character becoming one of the most iconic characters in the franchise for basically doing nothing doesn't really vibe well with me, and I imagine it didn't sit well with a lot of other people, because Sam didn't do anything to really earn the mantle of Captain America. He didn't go through any heartfelt character development. He didn't do any crazy standout things that made you go like, yeah, that guy should be Captain America, which is something that I have a problem with because I feel like every superhero, regardless of if they're their original iteration of the character, like they created their own mantle and they became their own hero, I believe every hero has moments that define them as who they are. Moments in their stories where you look at them and you go, that's the reason why you're that hero. Almost every mainline hero throughout the MCU has these moments. Tony's moment when he fully becomes Iron Man and he starts taking down all of the terrorist cells that he sold his weapons to, that's an Iron Man moment. Spider-Man when he lifted the Spider-Man when he lifted the rubble off of himself at the end of the movie so he could go and face down Vulture, that's a Spider-Man moment. Cap has tons of moments like that throughout all of his movie. Hell, in the first Avenger alone, I could name countless ones. You've got the early scene at the beginning of the movie where he fights the obnoxious guy from the movie theater who was ruining the experience for everyone, and he just won't go down, and it's the first time he ever says,
I can do this all day.
We've got the scene where he talks to the doctor and explains why he does everything that he does, why he wants to help people, and it's simply because
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies.
We have the grenade scene where he jumps down and covers the grenade so that no one else will get hurt, despite the fact that he didn't know it was a fake grenade. He just did it because he wanted to protect people. Or this scene here where he just uses his quick wits to get this flag so he can get a ride back with Peggy. And I love the fact that Steve doesn't gloat in this scene whatsoever. He just grabs the flag, respectfully gets in the car, and then rides off with them. He doesn't show off or anything, and it's just so good. There are so many more scenes like that throughout the rest of the movie that I could probably make an entire video of itself just talking about how good Captain America the First Avenger is and why it's probably one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but we're not here to talk about that. My point in saying all this is, Sam didn't have any moments throughout his tenure in the MCU films that showcased him as being the guy who should become the next Captain America, which I feel like the representatives at the MCU kind of realized that, and that's why we ended up getting The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a show that more or less is created to sell the audience on Sam becoming the next Captain America. Unfortunately, this doesn't really pan out very well because The Falcon and the Winter Soldier suffers from a very bad problem of relaying its narrative themes and messages to the audience without tell, don't show storytelling, which results in the series forcing the audience to assume a lot of elements about the narrative around them in order to agree with what's going on in the story. But when you stop and think about it for like half a second, you start to see the cracks in what's going on here. And nothing portrays this more than the origin story of Isaiah Bradley and how this directly connects to why Sam doesn't take up the mantle of Captain America throughout the rest of the show, and then why he does take it up at the end of the show. And I have a lot of problems with this. Now, before I delve into this, I need to make something very clear. I think the message and theme that they are trying to get across with Isaiah's story is fantastic, and what they do with Sam and his speech at the end works from a real-life perspective, because if you haven't seen the show, it is very much a message of how black people in general and people of color are marginalized and how they aren't allowed to move up in the world, how they aren't capable of taking on higher positions in the world because there are powers that be that try to stop them, whether it be the government or the general public that doesn't want to see them succeed, that doesn't want to see them move up into higher powers. And I think that is a very solid message because it is something that has historically happened, and I am very certain that it happens to people today. There are many individuals out in this world that still do not like black people and people of color in general, and they do not want to see them succeed. So I think this message works extremely well, but in the confines of the story, it contradicts the information that we have, which results in me not liking it from a critical standpoint, despite being on board with it from an emotional standpoint. Now, before I get into how this connects to Sam, I need to break down what Isaiah's backstory is and where these flaws start to pop in. In the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam and Bucky meet with the character of Isaiah Bradley, a super soldier, and American super soldier specifically, who has been in hiding since the 1980s. And Sam is very upset with Bucky for not telling him or Steve that Isaiah was a person that ever existed. Sam tries to probe Isaiah for what his backstory is, but Isaiah gets pissed off and ends up throwing both of them out of his house. This then fast forwards to the 5th episode of the show, where Sam finally goes back and is able to have a heart-to-heart with Isaiah and learn what his entire backstory is. We learn that Isaiah was a soldier back in the 1950s during the Korean War.
1,000,000 zillion jillion dillion cotillion times later.
As I was trying to say before I was rudely interrupted, Isaiah Bradley was a soldier brought into a super soldier program back in the 1950s during the Korean War. Him and a few other soldiers were each given a different vial of the super soldier serum. Now, despite Isaiah bringing up what happens to these individuals that were also a part of this program during his backstory, we never actually learn the names, faces, ethnicities, genders, or any other information about his comrades that are a part of this same program. But nevertheless, Isaiah and these other soldiers were each given different super soldier serums so that they could go on covert missions for the American people. Isaiah in particular was sent to South Korea to fight the Winter Soldier, that being Bucky Barnes. Isaiah mentions that he beat Bucky in the fight, but we obviously know that Bucky was not apprehended because all the other stuff in the MCU happened, so he managed to escape somehow, despite us not actually seeing the fight itself. Like I said, tell, don't show. Why would we want to see a fight between Bucky Barnes as Winter Soldier and Isaiah Bradley, this super soldier that we didn't know existed? You know, it's not like that would have been cool or anything. Anyway, Isaiah then goes to exclaims that each and every one of the other participants in the super soldier program ended up dying because the serum just didn't connect well with their body, despite the fact that Isaiah ended up saving a couple of them. 2 of the soldiers ended up being captured and were locked in a POW camp, and Isaiah went against protocol and saved the both of them, but he mentions that they eventually died shortly after the fact due to the serum that was in their bloodstream, resulting in Isaiah being the only super soldier in American history that has survived since the creation of Steve Rogers. Now this is where things start to get a little bit messy. Isaiah was thrown into prison by the American government and experimented on for 30 years. He was also pronounced dead, so his family and friends didn't know that he was still alive, nor the fact that he was being tortured in such a heinous way. Isaiah, around the 80s, was set free by a nurse that worked in the facility that he was in, who took pity on him and faked his death to the people that were experimenting on him. So Isaiah fled and he went into hiding and has been living that way ever since. Now, the problem with Isaiah's backstory is that Isaiah specifically says the reason that these things happened to him is because the American government feared his story and they were afraid of a black man being the next Captain America, so they erased him from history and threw him away to experiment on him.
They were worried my story might get out, so they erase me. They will never let a black man be Captain America.
Now, the reason I have an issue with this is because we do not have any evidence outside of Isaiah specifically saying this that supports the government doing this to him. Now, I am not saying in real life this isn't something that's happened to people. I'm just saying within the confines of the MCU, this isn't something that we have evidence of outside of him just telling the audience this in one episode of the show. And the reason I have an issue with it is because when you look back at the history of super soldiers in the MCU and what governments do, it kind of just feels like the government was trying to make another super soldier and they weren't trying to make another Captain America. They weren't trying to make another American icon that is a super soldier, and they were just like, ew, we don't want Isaiah to be that person because he's black. That's not what this feels like. It feels like they were trying to replicate the super soldier serum to make more super soldiers, and Isaiah was the only person in American history that the Americans had their hands on, because they sent Isaiah after Bucky, the Winter Soldier, who he failed to capture despite beating him in that fight. They do not have access to any other super soldiers to experiment on, except Isaiah. He's the only one that survived and is in their custody since Steve Rogers. And the reason that I can truly say that this isn't a race thing with Isaiah is because the same thing was going to happen to Steve. Let's flash back to Captain America, the First Avenger. When Steve became a super soldier, it is told to us by Tommy Lee Jones' character that their plan was to send Steve off to a lab to experiment on him to find out why he became a super soldier.
You're an experiment, you're going to Alamogordo. I asked for an army and all I got was you. You were not enough.
Because, for those of you who are unaware, a Hydra agent snuck into the experiment when Steve became a super soldier, and they murdered the scientist that gave Steve his powers, as well as taking the last super soldier serum vial. This resulted in Steve escaping the facility and chasing after the Hydra agent in the middle of broad day New York City. He ends up saving Peggy Carter, he ends up saving a child that the Hydra agent had taken hostage, and he stops the Hydra agent, as well as getting his picture taken blocking bullets with a car door like it's a shield, and this, on top of being spotted by many other eyewitnesses in the city, makes Steve a public icon. He's one of the first superheroes that's ever existed in the world, and at the very least, he's the first public superhero to exist in the world. This results in people being like, yo, who is this guy with crazy strength that stopped this crazy Nazi that showed up in the middle of New York City? We want to know more about him. So, instead of Steve being sent to the lab like he was supposed to be, the senator of the US, or I think he was like a senator of a state, or the US government in general, either way, it's the same difference. I don't remember the exact specifics of what state he was the senator of or whatever. Regardless, he brought up the fact that Steve should go on a PR campaign instead because it would be a waste to just throw Steve away in a lab and experiment on him. That is how the mantle of Captain America was initially created. It wasn't because the US government was trying to create an icon for the American people. No, Steve just did something heroic and got spotted by a ton of people, including a reporter that put him in the front lines, so they were kind of backed into a corner where it's like, well, the senator saw how people responded positively to Steve, and he wants him on a PR campaign. We can't just throw him into a lab now because someone in the government is telling us we're not allowed to do that anymore. That's why Steve became Captain America. It wasn't because they wanted him to be Captain America. It wasn't because they wanted him to be this icon of the American people. That's not what happened. Steve became that icon when he started breaking protocol and saving soldiers. When Steve saved the hundreds of soldiers from the Hydra base, that is what changed people's perspective of him. From him just being a showboat icon for the people to being the Captain America that we know and love. The man who saves and fights for justice and protects individuals. That's when that shift happened.
Hey, editing villain here. I just need to clarify something because I realized I'm kind of disproving my own point in that section you just heard. Ignore the disheveled look right now. But, the U.S. Senator that made Steve Captain America, that like gave him the mantle and everything, he did that selfishly by himself. It wasn't something that the collective U.S. government decided needed to happen. He saw Steve's popularity with the public and wanted to exploit it for himself for his own political campaign. That's why he had Steve become a propaganda machine, do all of those plays, and why he planned a meet and greet with Captain America for the public to see that Steve never showed up for because he went to go save Bucky from the Red Skull. So Steve becoming Captain America and avoiding going into the experiments was just pure luck because that one senator knew that he could exploit the popularity that Steve garnered from stopping the Hydra agent in the middle of broad daylight. So that's what I'm trying to say in that section, but I realize it kind of sounds like I'm contradicting myself there, so I figured I would make this little section right here to, elaborate on that. But yeah, back to the video.
But America never made another Captain America after Steve. They never passed the mantle onto anyone else until the present day where John Walker was introduced. And John Walker is just a normal soldier. So if America wanted to make another Captain America, why didn't they just do that? Why didn't they just give the mantle of Captain America to just a normal, well-trained soldier? Why did they go in secrecy and try to create more super soldiers? Because the point of what they were doing was to create more super soldiers. It had nothing to do with the mantle of Captain America itself. Now, if the show wanted to portray Isaiah this way, we could have seen the government tell him that he's going to be the next Captain America and go back on their word, but that isn't what happens. All we know is Isaiah was the first super soldier in American history to survive the super soldier series since Steve Rogers, and they experimented on him to figure out why that happened. Everything else about Isaiah being erased from history because it was due to the fact that he was black is something that only Isaiah says, and there's no other evidence to support that. Do you see now why I have a problem with this? There isn't enough substantial evidence to back up the claims that the show is saying. And this is where my problem with it from earlier comes into play. The tell, don't show storytelling. We're just told by Isaiah all of these problems without being given explicit evidence. There's no flashback. There's no records. There's no other characters that support what he's saying. It's just him saying that. And if you don't believe me when I say that this is a problem, let me put it into perspective for you. Let's use The Wizard of Oz, right? In the first Wizard of Oz movie, the Wicked Witch of the West is very much an evil character. That's it. She's just pure evil. There is no levity whatsoever in anything about her. She's just wrong. However, we then got the story of Wicked sometime afterwards. That story fleshes out who the Wicked Witch is and shows us that she wasn't always a terrible person, that she was a good intentioned individual. But if someone were to just show up in the first Wizard of Oz movie with Wicked not existing as evidence to this claim and just went, the Wicked Witch of the West isn't a bad person, right? There is no evidence in that film to substantiate that claim. If someone just showed up and said that in that movie, or the Wicked Witch told the audience this, we would have absolutely no reason to believe her and we'd assume she was lying, or you would want more evidence to prove that that is why she's saying what she's saying. Otherwise, you're just gonna go, yeah, right, okay, lady, sure. And that's kind of how I feel about Isaiah's backstory. I want to be on board with him because I think the message is very good, but there isn't enough evidence outside of him just proclaiming it to the audience that this is what happened. And now, that ties it back in to Sam and why he decided to not take up the mantle of Captain America, and then later on in the show, why he decided to take up the mantle of Captain America. So I'll start with him taking up the mantle of Captain America because him rejecting it at the beginning of the show is more of a personal issue that I have than what's going on at the end of the show. So at the very end of the show, Sam, when he takes up the mantle of Captain America, there is a big speech at the end of the show. And the first half of that speech is how Sam is Captain America. He's a black man with no superpowers, but he's still here, and he can feel the judgment from people who do not want him being Captain America. Yet, he's going to stand on business and be there anyway. And I truly love this message, because, yeah, you gotta just say,
Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
You know, you have to have the guts to ignore all of the negativity to be the best person that you can be. Regardless if people hate you for what you're doing, you know that you're good at what you're doing. So yeah, you gotta stand on business and you gotta do it. Stand 10 toes down. That's how it's gotta be. And that's perfectly fine. The problem comes into play with, once again, tell, don't show storytelling. Because Sam says there are people that don't want him to be Captain America. He says he feels the judgment of people that don't like a black man in the uniform of Captain America. But in the confines of the show and the MCU as a whole, we do not see that. There isn't a single person in the world and universe of the MCU that has gone, we don't want Sam Wilson to be Captain America. That's not something that happens. There isn't a government official or a normal civilian or a criminal that looks at Sam and goes, we don't want you to be Captain America. The only person that tells Sam not to be Captain America is, ironically enough, Isaiah Bradley.
They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
He's the only person in the show that says that. No one else says that. We, as a matter of fact, see multiple different people see Sam as Captain America. People are even recording it between government officials and normal individuals, and they're all like, yeah, that's cool. Thanks, you saved a lot of people. We like you as Captain America. So who are these phantom people that hate Sam? The show wants me to fill in the blanks with my imagination that, yeah, you know, in real life, there are people like this, so in the confines of the MCU, this also must be a thing. But no, I'm sorry, that's not something you can do in a show. There's a difference between tweeting.
I thought I saw a Tweety bird.
Between treating your audience member like they're idiots and expositing everything to them and showing them confident evidence in the claim that you're making. This is just telling us something and going like, yeah, they'll fill in the blanks. This isn't that kind of situation. This isn't like the end of Star Wars where we didn't need an explanation for how the universe rebuilt their government system after Palpatine was defeated. That isn't the case. We don't need to know that information because the point of the story was Luke defeating Vader and Palpatine. However, in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, the point of this scene is the message itself, is standing up against the establishment, is Sam, a black man with no superpowers, taking up the mantle of Captain America. That's the point. So you can't just go, yeah, I trust you guys to just fill in the blanks in this situation. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. So it makes Sam's speech about being a black man with no powers feel lackluster because no one has a problem with Sam being Falcon. Like, he is a U.S. soldier that is a superhero that's a part of the Avengers. Sure, he's not Captain America, but he's basically the same as Steve. They fill the same role. So no one had a problem with him as that, and no one has a problem with Rhodey being War Machine. Hell, at one point in the Iron Man franchise, Rhodey is rebranded to stand more for American values, and he becomes the Iron Patriot. No one had a problem with that, so why all of a sudden would people start to manifest issues with Sam being Captain America? It doesn't make any sense because we don't have the evidence to back it up. However, with that being said, I would rather the show ask me to fill in the blanks in a situation than gaslight me into thinking that something happened that didn't. And that brings me up to Sam rejecting the mantle of Captain America at the beginning of the show. This is something that always off-put me with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I never was on board with the idea that Sam quit being Captain America before even trying, because it's the antithesis of the character of Captain America. Captain America being a person who could
This all day.
quitting without even giving it a shot just feels wrong in every form and aspect. So the fact that Sam, the new Captain America, the first thing we see him do with the mantle of Captain America is quit just feels disgusting to me, and I don't like it. But Towards the end of the show, Sam and Bucky have a conversation where Bucky apologizes to Sam because he says him and Steve didn't understand what it would mean for a black man to be Captain America. And this is supposed to be portrayed after they go through learning Isaiah's backstory and everything Sam and Bucky have been through in the show. And the show angles this in the perspective of, yeah, the U.S. government would be against a black man being Captain America. There will be people who judge Sam for being Captain America, and it's a heavy burden for him to bear. That would be fine if that was the actual reason why Sam quit being Captain America, but it's not. That's what the show angles it to be at the end, because they probably realize that ties better in with their message that they're going for. But that's not what Sam said in the first episode of the show. Sam very blatantly and clearly explains to us, to a character that he would have no reason to lie to. The reason I bring this up is because I have a feeling that there will be someone being like, well, maybe he just didn't say his whole feelings and thoughts in this scene that you're about to bring up, and that's why at the end of the show, when Bucky's talking to Sam and apologizing, it's his whole feelings about the—
Not scientifically possible!
The person he is talking to, there is not a single shred of doubt in my mind that he would lie to this person. He wouldn't do it. There's no reason that he would, because the person he's talking to is James Rhodes, aka Rhodey. In the first episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, after Sam gives up the shield, Rhodey goes up to Sam and is like, bro, so are you really gonna make me ask you why you're not Captain America? Like, why you quit? Why you gave up the shield? And Sam tells Rhodey that when he first picked up the shield from Steve, the first words out his mouth are that it felt like it belonged to someone else. And then he goes into a monologue about how that person is Steve, so he decided that it would be better to put the shield into a museum rather than to become Captain America himself. And when I was watching that, I was like, so are we just gonna act like the second half of that conversation didn't happen for the entire show? And that's exactly what happens. For those of you who may not remember from Avengers Endgame, what Sam said is only half of the conversation that him and Steve have when Steve gave him the shield. When Steve hands Sam the shield, he says this.
Like it's someone else's.
Right? That's what Sam said in the scene where he was talking to Rhodey. But what happens after that is that Steve tells him this.
It isn't.
And that moment reassures Sam, which results in him responding to him in this warm way, like so.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
This one is yours.
So you mean to tell me that this man, who felt confident, who smiled with reassurance, telling Steve that he's going to make him proud and live up to his legacy, is the same man that we meet at the beginning of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, who's gone, yeah, nah, I can't do it. I'm gonna quit. What? I'm sorry? What happened exactly? You didn't even try. What happened to, I'm gonna make you proud? What happened to that? Where did that go? Why do we act like that never happened? This entire show, that aspect of their conversation is never brought up. It's just that first half where he says the shield feels like it belongs to someone else. That's it. They never talk about the fact that he felt like he could do the job because Steve reassured him. And you wanna know why this becomes worse? Bucky was there during this conversation. He knew Steve was going to give him the shield, and he was standing there when Steve gave him the shield. He saw Sam say this. He knows how Sam felt about the shield when it was given to him. He is fully aware that Sam was fully prepared to take on the mantle of Captain America. So then, to have him go from watching his friend take on the mantle of his former best friend, then move on to being like, hey bro, I'm sorry, I didn't know what it would be like for a black guy to take on the mantle of Captain America. It feels like it completely comes out of left field. It feels like the show was gaslighting me into viewing something that wasn't actually the case, and it really bothers me, because it's like, why did we have to retroactively change the story? What was wrong with Sam just being insecure about taking on the mantle of Captain America because he was afraid of living up to his best friend's legacy? What's the problem with that? Why did we have to tie it back into Isaiah's story and try and retroactively change and make this a race issue when it wasn't to begin with? Sam at the beginning of the show was never like, yeah, I have a fear of the judgment that people are going to give me and it's a heavy burden to bear. No, it was more just, I don't think I could live up to my best friend's legacy, which is fine. why do we have to try and change it? Because now I'm sitting here like, I remember the rest of the show. That's not what happened. Are you gaslighting me right now, bro? Is that what's happening here? Is this the first time a show has tried to gaslight somebody? Like, what is happening? Why are we doing this? What was wrong with the way it was before? And it truly infuriates me. Now, granted, obviously, I have more of an issue with this because I just don't like the fact that Sam quit without trying to be Captain America in the first place. And when I saw the trailers for the show, I believed that Sam was going to have the shield taken from him by the U.S. government, but that is a discussion for another day. There are a lot of things that I could go into and small changes that I can make about the show that would make it function significantly better and get rid of basically all of the problems that I have with it, but we're not here to talk about this today. If you guys want me to talk about it, let me know down in the comments below, but let's keep moving on because there are still a couple more issues that I have where Sam's moments that are supposed to reveal why he should be Captain America in the show fall completely flat in my eyes. Now, the last 2 points that I have to make have to do with Sam's sister and the story arc with their family's boat and Carly Morgenthau. I will save Carly for last. Let's pick up with Sam's sister. At the beginning of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're introduced to Sarah, Sam Wilson's younger sister, or older sister. Now, I'm not really sure where she's supposed to be in regards to everything because of the whole 5-year gap, so I don't know if she's older than Sam now, or if they're the same age, or if she's still younger, but regardless of that fact, Sam and his sister have a family boat that their parents had ever since they were children. However, Sarah cannot maintain the payments on the boat and live her normal life, so she's decided to sell it. Sam disagrees with this because he believes that their boat is a part of their family history and it needs to stay within their family. However, that still doesn't fix the money issue. So Sam tries to help Sarah get more money so that she can sustain her lifestyle and sustain the boat. But it ends up failing. They try going to a bank to get a loan, but they end up getting rejected because the rules and regulations for taking out a loan have changed over the 5 years because of Thanos and the blip. Billions of people came back spontaneously at once, and now a bunch of people who have now lost their jobs and their homes are trying to take out a loan so that they can rebuild their lives, so banks had to tighten up on who they can give a loan out to. And this results in Sam's sister Sarah. I don't know why I keep saying Sam's sister Sarah, as if you guys aren't going to know what I'm talking about when I just say Sarah. I don't know what's wrong with me today. But anyway, Sarah gets mad at Sam because she's like, I knew this would happen. This was destined to happen. I don't know why you tried to give me hope. We're not going to fix this. And Sam's like, nah, we are. You just have to have hope. However, a new problem emerges towards the end of the show. In episode, I believe it was episode 5, Sam finds out that the boat is too damaged for Sarah to sell, so he ends up calling in a bunch of favors from everyone in town that owed their family. So they all work together to fix up the boat. This ends up being a big and heartfelt moment where even Bucky comes out and him and Sam bond and they start fixing up their family's boat. The following day, Sam goes over to paint over their family's name off the boat, and Sarah stops him saying he's right. They can't get rid of the family boat and they must keep it because it belongs in their family history. And Sam's like, you're damn right, and we're going to figure something out to keep it. That's the end of the story. They're just in the same spot that they were in the first episode, because the boat being damaged is something that happened in later on the story. We didn't know the boat was broken in the first episode. We thought it was fully functional and that she could sell it, and then that was it. Sure, we see that the boat can't like auto start, which would have definitely decreased the value of selling the boat. However, his sister was still going to sell it because it wasn't too damaged to sell at that point. We didn't know that was a thing. So they are once again in the same spot they were at the start of the story, at the end of the story. They still don't have the money for his sister to keep the boat. The only thing that's changed is his sister doesn't want to sell it anymore. And this is supposed to be like a big, joyous moment for Sam, where we're like, yeah, bro, you did it. You fixed all the problems. But he didn't. He didn't fix the problems. If his sister was still selling the boat, this would be a completely different situation. The boat is perfectly sellable now because it functions, but as it stands right now, they still don't have the money to keep the boat. So what is the message of this story? He didn't fix anything. Everything's still a problem. But the show ends on this happy note where they're just like, yeah, they'll figure it out. Somehow, just assume that everything works out and you'll be fine. And it's like, but he didn't fix the problem. The problem you established to us at the beginning of the show is his sister needs money to pay for the boat. he did not get the money to fix the boat. He fixed a secondary problem that appeared later, but not the main issue. Am I the only one who thinks this? Am I the only one who saw this happening? It's just like, wait.
Oh, no.
How did we get here? I want an explanation. How did we get to a point where the resolution to the story is that we still have the problem at the start of the story? That's absolutely ludicrous to me. That'd be like if in Lord of the Rings, the solution to Lord of the Rings is that Frodo just keeps the ring, and it's like, wait a minute, wasn't the point to throw it in Mount Doom? How do we end up with him just deciding to keep the ring and not throw it in the mountain? That seems contradictory to the main threat and journey that you set up at the beginning, wouldn't it? That's exactly what happens here, and it hurts my brain when I stop and think about it, because this is supposed to be a Sam Captain America moment. He's supposed to have hope throughout all this adversity, and it ends up working out in the end. But it didn't work out in the end, because he didn't fix anything. So, what the fuck am I supposed to do about this? How am I supposed to take this story? But it is no worse than the level of incompetence that they give Sam in regards to Carly Morgenthau. Carly Morgenthau, aka the Flag Smasher, is a character who was not blipped away when Thanos snapped his fingers. She grew up and was raised in the world post-blip where everyone was gone, or is it pre-blip or would it be post-blip now that I'm thinking about it? Because like the blip itself is when everyone was gone, so post-blip would be when they come back, right? I think? Or would the blip itself be considered while everyone's gone, so post-blip would be while everyone is still gone, or is that during the blip? Why am I thinking so much about this? My point is, while everyone was dead and gone because of Thanos' snap that wiped out half of the universe, she grew up in that world where things became more peaceful. Borders were dropped down, governments unified, and people were able to live in different countries that they weren't allowed to move into before without extreme prejudice. And then everyone came back when the Avengers defeated Thanos. This resulted in a massive shakeup in the world that has messed up everything. People who weren't taken away by Thanos were forced to move out of their homes to give those homes back to the people who lived in them 5 years prior to their disappearance. So now it's created this weird situation where citizens who have just tried to move on and live their lives throughout this depressing situation of losing their loved ones now have their loved ones suddenly come back, and now they're losing all of their rights. They're losing their jobs, their homes, and they're becoming homeless individuals for something that they didn't do wrong. And Carly wants to stand up for these individuals. She's like, it's not fair that you're prioritizing the people who were basically dead for 5 years instead of the living who had to bear the fruit of these people disappearing, who had to make the world continue to spin and function with them gone. It's not right that you're discriminating against us and not them. And this results in Carly becoming a radicalized terrorist. Yes, Carly is a terrorist, despite the fact that this show actively tries to portray her as being the good guy that has a tragic story. Carly Morgenthau is a terrorist. She murders innocent people and government officials to prove her point. She almost even killed a bunch of politicians and was willing to sacrifice her own life because she believed she would become a martyr and the cause would go on beyond what she's done. And they even have a bunch of people supporting her and believing that she is doing the right thing, like general people, like normal civilians like you and I. They have them act like they are in line with Carly. I'm sorry, but they may have believed that before she started slaughtering innocent people, but after she blew up a building filled with innocent people, no one would be on her side. But you know who is? Sam Wilson. Sam is more on Carly's side than he was for Bucky back in the Winter Soldier. Because Sam, throughout the entirety of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is just like, yo, let me just talk to Carly because I feel like she's fighting for a just cause, and if I talk her down, she won't keep doing these crazy acts of international terrorism. Mind you, this is the same man who told Steve Rogers that he should murder his best friend Bucky because he is, and I quote, too far gone.
Whoever he used to be, the guy he is now, I don't think he's the kind you save. He's the kind you stop.
I don't know if I can do that.
Or he might not give you a choice.
Mind you, they were self-aware that Bucky had been brainwashed by Hydra. So Sam is telling Steve to murder a man who is literally being enslaved by a racist Nazi. What the fuck, dude? Like, genuinely, what the fuck? But then when it comes to Carly, this woman who is of her own mind and sound body decided to murder innocent people, and he's like, listen, guys, she had a point. Just let me talk to her. What? Why? Why are we doing this? I don't care if she had a just cause. It doesn't fix the fact that she killed innocent people. She even killed Lamar Hoskins, and this is what she had to say about killing him.
I didn't mean to kill your friend. I don't want to hurt people that don't matter.
Like, bitch, what the fuck? That's not cool. Yet Sam, even at the last hour, still refuses to fight her and is trying to talk to her in the final battle. If Sharon didn't shoot Carly, she would have murdered Sam here. So the idea that Sam is so gung-ho about just talking to her because he thinks she has a point makes him look incompetent. Because it's like, dude, she is way far beyond. We can just talk this out. Like, imagine if someone came up to you and told you that Osama bin Laden doing 9/11 was justified and that they should have talked him down instead of hunting him down because he had a good point. You curb stomp them into the middle of the street. There is no doubt in my mind that's what would happen. So the idea that Sam is like, yeah, this girl who murdered innocent people, killed a government official that was completely innocent and only doing his job, and then went to murder a bunch of politicians because they were going to pass a law that she doesn't like. Yeah, she's justified. We could just talk her down, guys. Even if he did manage to talk her down like he almost does early on in the 4th episode of the show, what exactly was going to happen here? She's an international terrorist. She would be sent to the raft at the least. So what exactly was going to happen, Sam? What was your plan here exactly? But none of that pales in comparison to Sam's final speech at the end of the show, which is just, whoo boy. Sam, after his final confrontation with Carly, he carries her corpse to the government politicians that she was trying to kill. And they salute Sam. Sam? Why can't I speak all of a sudden? Good Lord. Sam brings her corpse to the government officials that she had tried to kill earlier, and they salute Sam for defeating her. And Sam is like, you gotta stop calling her a terrorist, because we use the word terrorist to marginalize people to avoid the actual issues or something along those lines. I'll just put the clip right here.
You have to stop calling them terrorists. What else would we call them? These labels, terrorist, refugee, thug, they're often used to get around the question why.
But, Sam, buddy, she is a terrorist, an international one at that. What are you talking about, bro? Back up. So, Sam is trying to make the point that Carly had a just cause. Therefore, she isn't a terrorist. She's someone that was a circumstance of the issues of the world. This isn't like an orphan kid living on the street stealing fruit so that they can survive. Like, this isn't that kind of situation where you're supposed to be like, you know, he's got a point because, like, you know, they were put in a bad situation where they had no other choice but to do X, Y, Z. That's not what's happening here. Carly very much had a choice to not murder the innocent people because originally Carly and her companions were just stealing goods to help out the people that they cared about, to help out the displaced individuals that were trying to survive in the world. And then she blew up a building with innocent people without any of them knowing. And they all went like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why did you do that? What the hell was that? And she's just like,
there were still people in there.
This is the only language these people understand.
No, because there are a lot of movements in history that were very much peaceful, where no one got hurt. Well, they didn't attack anyone, is a better way to phrase it. But there were very much nonviolent, peaceful protests in which people did not kill each other, specifically on the side that was right. And, you know, they've gone down in history. So, like, no, that's not true, Carly. I'm actively against what you're saying, and I know a lot of people are. But this leads Sam to go into a long monologue to the government officials about how they need to fix things and how he literally, and I quote, says, need to do better. The government politicians tell Sam that he does not understand how difficult this situation is because they're trying to handle a situation where billions of people have spontaneously spawned back. It's something that shouldn't be feasibly possible that they now have to deal with. But despite them saying that, I agree with Sam in one aspect. Their plan is disgustingly terrible. Their idea to send the military in to evict 20 million citizens to give their homes back to the individuals who are erased by Thanos doesn't fix anything. You're just shifting who's homeless. You still have to deal with these 20 million people being homeless. So this plan is absolute dog shit. However, Sam's solution to the plan is even dumber, because Sam looks them dead in the eye and goes, "You're damn right. I don't know anything about this government politics stuff. I don't know how to fix this situation, but that's a good thing because it means I can tell you guys to do better." And then he flies off to go save someone's life.
But you have no idea how complicated this situation is. You know what? You're right. And that's a good thing. You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
No, that's not how that works. You can't just do that. You can't just be like, yeah, I don't know anything about this situation, but you guys gotta do better. Imagine if I walked up to anyone in any profession in this world and I told them they need to do better at their job just because I don't know anything that their job entails. I just think that they suck at what they're doing. They would, again, probably curb stomp me into the middle of the street. So the fact that this is the solution that Sam has is absolutely absurd. It makes him look like the most ignorant person on the planet. And then the show ends with a little news clip that says, yeah, the government officials and politicians, they decided to not pass the law to evict 20 million people. That's it, though. It didn't say they came up with a new plan to fix anything. It just said they decided to not use their dog shit plan that they already came up with. Ooh, yay, cheers for everyone. They didn't do their dumb plan because Captain America told them that they need to do better. Wow, what a grandiose solution to this problem. Except it's not. It doesn't. It just results in the audience having to go, I mean, I guess they come up with a plan that fixes everything because of what Cap said. So, woohoo, right? That's how we're supposed to feel? But no, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You cannot just go, yeah, fix it. And then that's the solution. Again, same comparison I made earlier, Return of the Jedi. We didn't need to know how they fixed the government in that because the point of the story was them defeating Palpatine. But the point of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that Carly was doing everything she was doing because of this plan that the government officials were going to do. So Sam stopping the plan and coming up with a solution is what we're looking forward to as the resolution of the show. But he just says, fix it, do better, and that's the solution we're supposed to take. That doesn't make him look cool. It doesn't make him look like Captain America. It makes him look like an idiot. So, how am I supposed to take this? How am I supposed to be on board with this character if all the moments where he's supposed to be cool, where it's supposed to prove why he's the new Captain America, are all fundamentally flawed because you guys didn't stop and think about the ramifications and the evidence you needed to support your themes in this show? Why do we have so many instances where the resolution is just, well, it happens off screen, don't think about it? Why do we have so many moments where the evidence in the universe of this story contradicts what's going on with what you're actively telling me right now? How did this end up this way? And listen, I'm not trying to dog the writers because writing is an extremely difficult job. It's something that I've never had to do. I've never had to write a show or a novel or a comic or anything like that. I do not have the writing chops to do that, but I understand how extremely difficult it is, but we've seen it done right. There are tons of writers that have accurately and expertly created legendary pieces of work that go down in history because they understood how to do these exact things. So I don't understand how they ended up in this position. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there were some rewrites in The Falcon and Winter Soldier before it came out because it was releasing around the time or in development around the time of COVID. So I can understand that being a problem with the show, but come on, guys. For a show that's supposed to be this deep-rooted in important messages, you can't just fumble the bag when it comes to landing the execution. That doesn't work. And this is exactly why Captain America Brave New World needs to work. That movie needs to sell people on why Captain America should be Sam Wilson. He needs to have moments that are impactful, that make you go, yes, I completely understand why he's Captain America. That right there is a moment that proves it. Whether it be a small emotional moment where he's just talking to someone or he's just standing his ground, planting himself like a tree and saying no against all of the evil in the world. Either way, it needs to be littered with these moments because we need to sell people on this character. And if we don't, then people are going to check out. That's just how it's going to be. No one's going to care about Captain America 5, 6, and 7 because they don't care about Captain America. They're not going to be there for that. They're going to be like, whatever. I don't really want to go see it. Because what happens when you make a Captain America movie with a villain that people don't know anything about? It's not going to be the same level of response that you expect when it results to other superheroes, right? Like when Whiplash was the villain of Iron Man 2, people were still willing to go see that because why? People liked the first Iron Man movie, so they were okay with learning about a new villain that they had never heard of before. But in regards to Captain America, if people aren't on board with Sam Wilson and you introduce a villain they've never heard of or care about, then they're just going to be like, yeah, I'm good. I'll pass on this one. I'll wait till it comes out on digital and then I'll check it out. Maybe I'll even wait till streaming because I don't want to pay money for it. That's going to be a huge problem. This is going to be a huge issue, especially given the fact that I've heard rumors that Sam is not going to lead the Avengers in the future of the MCU. It's going to be Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, which is absolutely insane because she is one of the most hated characters in the MCU. Now, I don't particularly hate Captain Marvel like that. I like Brie Larson as an actress, and I think she does a decent job. I just feel like the character of Carol in the universe of Marvel isn't really written all that well. And now you're telling me she's going to be the leader of the Avengers? I'm sorry, I don't think she has enough good faith to do that. I think Sam has more good faith than her and that he should lead the Avengers. But also, he's not established very well to be the character that he's playing now. They didn't do a good job bringing him up to snuff as being the new Captain America. So handing him the Avengers as well is just going to make people be like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this, bro? What's going on here? Isn't there someone better? So, yeah, Captain America Brave New World, fix this problem. Please. The same way Sam tells you, fix it, bro. Give him iconic moments that make people go, that dude's Captain America. That is the simplest explanation that I could give you that would make it work. I don't have the scene itself. Obviously, the movie is written, filmed, and it's going to release in a few weeks, but fix it, man. Please, you got to do something to sell people on Sam. Otherwise, it's going to be the end and death of this character, and it's going to be a really big pain in the ass for you guys to try and sell him to individuals in the future. But with all that being said, I am the innocent villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous. Let me know what you think down below, and I will catch you in the next one.
Hold it!
Now, this little postscript message here is for all the fans of my channel. It's been a while since I made a full-length video, and I would like to say thank you for still being here, as well as the fact that my channel has grown a lot since the last time I made a full video. When I released my Penguin video about like a month or two ago, I was around like 500, maybe like 400 something subscribers, and now I'm currently on 781, at least as of the time that I'm recording this video. I'm almost at 800, which is insane to me, and I really appreciate that. I love all the support and the people who have been commenting on my shorts that I've still been making in between my last two videos, that being Penguin and this. So I'm happy that you guys decided to jump on board to this channel. I'm happy you're enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm looking forward to building this community even more as time goes on and having more fun talking about shows, movies, anime, and whatever the hell else I decide to talk about on here. So yeah, thanks. Love and appreciate you guys, and also Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year's, all that good stuff that I missed out on by not uploading a full video for like the past few months. So yeah, there's all that, and yeah, let's get back to the outro. Peace.